Hello friends, welcome to NEET World. This is your Abhilash Sir, Mathematics faculty for Foundation, EAPCET, KCET and also JEE. So from today we will be starting our foundation session. Okay, first of all good evening. So from today we will be starting our foundation session. Already we have done the class for previous class, we have done for class 9. Now we will be doing the for class 10th when it comes to mathematics. So we will be mainly focusing on CBSE board. That doesn't mean that we are ignoring state board. Even state board will be covered, but mainly we are focusing on CBSE board here. Most important thing that you have to remember is we will be covering all the NCERT based questions. That is one thing. Next thing is after the NCERT based questions are done, after each chapter we will be also covering reference books question like R.D. Sharma, R.S. Agarwal, EduCart, all these things. Okay, they are all very important because like you know in CBSE applied questions are being asked more. Okay, that doesn't mean that you have to ignore NCERT. NCERT is our foundation, so please let us focus on NCERT. So after that we will be solving this reference book question, and also mainly the students will be finding difficulty when it comes to case study based question because they may not have conceptual clarity or they might have not have adequate practice, or in most schools they will not be dealing with lot of case study based questions. You don't have to worry about that. You can follow our sessions and you can gain lot of benefit. Okay, so let us start with the session. So like I told, okay, we will be starting with class 10th mathematics syllabus. So first chapter, that is what real numbers, that will be doing it later. We will be starting with polynomials. So when it comes to polynomials, you have to understand what is a polynomial, what are the components that are included to form a polynomial. So first thing is you have to understand that in a polynomial what are the things that we have. Okay, so in a polynomial what are the things that we have? See here, first of all, see here, we should know something called constant. Constant means what? It can be 5, it can be 2, it can be 3, etc., something like that. That means it is a fixed term, it is a fixed value throughout. Okay, it is a fixed value throughout, you cannot change it. That is the meaning of the word constant. Next, there is something called variable. There is something called variable. Variable, the word itself says it can vary, it keeps on varying, like x, y, z, something like this. Okay, this is the meaning of variable. Now let me say, what do you mean by algebraic expression? Algebraic expression, algebraic expression. So algebraic expression means what? It is nothing but you are combining constant and variable, where constant and variable are combined through a mathematical operation. The mathematical operation, be it addition, be it subtraction, be it multiplication, be it division. Through that mathematical operation, you are combining both variable and a constant. That is called algebraic expression, like x plus 1. Here this is variable, this is a constant, this is a mathematical operation. Or you can write it as 2x minus 3, or you can write it as x plus 2 x, or you can write it as just x minus 2. Simply you can write it as x minus 2. These are all what? Algebraic expression. Now you have to understand what is a polynomial. Now you have to understand what is a polynomial. Now you learned what is a constant, then you learned what is a variable, then you have to understand what is algebraic expression. Algebraic expression, you are combining constant and variable through a mathematical operation, that is nothing but algebraic expression. Now you have to understand what is a polynomial, that is our topic of discussion. So we have to understand what is a polynomial now. So see here friends, polynomial means what? Suppose I take a variable, I multiply with a constant 5. Let me raise the first what I took, a variable x I took, and I took a constant 5, okay, and I combined with the variable, that is it became 5x. Let me raise the power of the variable, that is let me write it as to the power 2, okay, to the power 2. So this entire thing is nothing but polynomial. This entire thing is nothing but polynomial. So I can represent it as what? P of x, you can see in the books they will write it as P of x is equal to 5x square. Here P of x is nothing but what? It is nothing but polynomial in x. What does it say? P of x is nothing but what? It is nothing but polynomial in x. Okay, P of x is representing what? How do we read it? Polynomial in x. Suppose I write 5y cube, it is nothing but what? Polynomial in y. Suppose I write this is for polynomial in y is equal to 5y cube. Suppose I write 3t to the power of 4, this is polynomial in t. This is what friends? This is polynomial in t. So these are the basics you must know. So first thing is what? We started with constant, then what is a variable, then what is algebraic expression, then you have to understand what is a polynomial. polynomial, you are combining constant and variable, and also there is a power for the variable. Okay, the power can be 1, the power can be 0, all these things we will learn. We will also learn next what we will learn. We will also learn types of polynomials. We will also learn what is the value of a polynomial. We will also learn what is the 0 of a polynomial. All these things. We will also learn what is the degree of a polynomial. Okay, let us see, friends. Let us start. So first thing what I told, what do you mean by value of a polynomial? You have to understand what do you mean by value of a polynomial. Value of a polynomial. Okay. So I have p of x is equal to 5x square. If I put x is equal to 1, so this will become what? P of 1 will become equal to 5 into x square is 1 square. So this will be equal to 5. So the value of polynomial is what? The value of polynomial is 5 at what? At x is equal to 1. Okay. The value of polynomial here it is what? It is equal to 5 at x is equal to 1. Got it? The value of polynomial is equal to 5 at x is equal to 1. Now suppose I write p of y is equal to 5y square plus 2y plus 1. Okay. Now if I put p of 1, this will gives me what? This will give me 5y 1 square plus 2 into 1 plus 1. So this is nothing but what? This is nothing but equal to 5 plus 2 plus 1. So this will be equal to what? 8. This gives me 8. This is nothing but what? This the value 8 is nothing but what? It is nothing but the value of the polynomial. It is nothing but what, friends? Value of the polynomial at what point? At y is equal to 1. At y is equal to 1. So this is the meaning of value of the polynomial. Suppose you put any value, what is the value you get? What is the answer you get? That is nothing but the value of the polynomial at which point? At the value which you put at that point. Okay. The value which you put is what? Here it is 1. So the value of the polynomial is 8 at y is equal to 1. Here what? The value of the polynomial is y at x is equal to 1. Does that mean that we have to put x is equal to 1 itself? You can put x is equal to any value. Okay. If you put 2, you will get different value. If you put y is equal to 2, you will get different value. So depending on the various values of y, you will get the value of the polynomial. Okay, for polynomial in y, similarly for polynomial in x, and similarly for polynomial in anything. So general representation of the polynomial. Generally, the polynomial of in x can be represented as here. It can be represented as p of x can be written as a naught plus a1 x plus a2 x square plus a3 x cube plus up to an x to the power of n. This a naught is nothing but what? A naught into x to the power of 0. This a1 into x is nothing but what? X to the power of 1. So here the power is nothing but we are talking about the polynomial. So p of x in general form, that is polynomial in general form of a polynomial, you can write it this way. So this is the general form of the polynomial, and we also learned what? We learned value of a polynomial. Okay. So we started with what, friends? We started with something called what is a constant, then variable, then we learned what is algebraic expression, then we learned polynomial and polynomial in x, how to read the polynomial, that is polynomial in y, polynomial in t, and then also we learned what is called as value of a polynomial and the general form of a polynomial also we learned. Now we have to learn something called 0 of a polynomial. 0 of a polynomial. Since it is the first session, it will be pretty short, so that you have to understand how the flow of the class is going to go. Most importantly, please listen to the class patiently, have a notebook, okay, where you can jot down the important points, and then when we solve the question, please try to solve by yourself. Question solving will happen from the next class. In this class, we will be giving only the introduction. Now, see here, 0 of a polynomial is given. So, 0 of a polynomial, see here, if I say 0 of a polynomial means what? Suppose p of x is given as x square minus 2x minus 3. Suppose I put x is equal to 1. If I put x is equal to 1, p of 1 is nothing but equal to what? If I put x is equal to 1, what I will get? If I put x is equal to 1, I will get it as 1 minus 2 minus 3. This is nothing but equal to what? I will get it as minus 4. Suppose I put x is equal to 3. X is equal to 3, that is, if I put x is equal to 3, that is p of 3 is nothing but equal to what? That is 3 square minus 2 into 3 minus 3. Okay. This will be equal to what, friends? 9 minus 2 3s are 6 minus 3. So this will be 9 minus 9 is equal to 0. So I got the value is equal to 0. For what value of x I will get 0? That is nothing but 0 of the polynomial. Here the 0 of the polynomial is what? It is not 0. The 0 of the polynomial is 3. the value of the polynomial for which we get 0, okay, where here to find the 0 of the polynomial, we have to get the value of the polynomial as 0. For what point we will get the value of the polynomial as 0? That point is called 0 of the polynomial. We got the value of the polynomial is 0. For which point x is equal to 3? Here x is equal to 3 is called as what? 0 of the polynomial. Here we got value of the polynomial is minus 4. So, here we got minus 4, which for which point? For x is equal to 1. But here we cannot call it as 0 of the polynomial because we got value of the polynomial is minus 4, but not as 0. We have to get value of the polynomial as 0. Okay, when we get value of the polynomial as 0, for what point we are getting the value of the polynomial as 0? That point is called what, friends? That point is called 0 of the polynomial. Clear? That point is called 0 of the polynomial. Got it? Now, see here one more. If I give p of x is equal to x cube plus 1, p of x is equal to x cube plus 1. Here if I put p of minus 1, that is if I put x is equal to minus 1, what I will get? Minus 1 cube plus 1. So, that is equal to what? Minus 1 plus 1. Minus 1 cube is nothing but equal to minus 1. So, here I am getting 0. Here x is equal to minus 1 is called 0 of the polynomial. Here x is equal to 3 is 0 of the polynomial. Okay. Here x is equal to minus 1 is 0 of polynomial. Is 0 of polynomial. Okay. I hope it is clear. The concept of 0 of the polynomial, I hope it is clear. Okay. Let us move forward. So, till now we learnt what is constant, what is variable, what is algebraic expression, what is a polynomial, the general form of a polynomial, value of a polynomial, and also we learnt what? We also learnt value of a polynomial. After that we also learnt 0 of a polynomial. Next we have to learn something called degree of a polynomial. We have to learn something called degree of a polynomial. So, we have to learn something called degree of a polynomial. We have to learn something called degree of a polynomial. So, we have to learn something called degree of a polynomial. See here, first of all, before that, let us learn different types of polynomials. Suppose I write p of x is equal to 5x square. Here it is having how many terms? There is only one term. So, this is called what? This is called monomial. Suppose I write p of x is equal to 5x square plus 2x. This having how many terms? 2 terms. So, we call it as binomial. If I write p of x is equal to 5x square plus 2x plus 2, this is called what? Trinomial. So, it is based on what? It is based on number of terms. We are classifying based on number of terms. So, monomial, binomial, trinomial, like that. If it is having number of terms, we call it as polynomial. That is what? So, if you are having number of sides in a quadrilateral, we call it as polygon. Like that, we will call it as what? Polynomial. Now, degree of a polynomial. Suppose the polynomial p of x is given as 5x square plus 2x plus 3. Here the degree of a polynomial is nothing but, it is nothing but what? It is nothing but the power of the highest power of the variable, highest power of variable. Okay. Here the variable is what? X. Here the highest power of variable is what? 2. So, the degree is what? The degree is 2. Suppose similarly, if I write p of x is equal to 3x cube plus 5x square plus 2. Here the degree is what? Highest power of the variable, highest power of the variable. Here the highest power of the variable is 3. So, the degree is 3. Similarly, if I write okay, for this question, what is the degree of the polynomial? So, please think carefully. So, the degree of the polynomial means nothing but what? Highest power of the variable. Highest power of the variable, as you can see directly, you will think that it is 3. But here if you simplify, x square whole square, you will get it as 4. This will be x cube plus 3x square plus 2. So, like this they can give any tricky or twisted question. So, here the degree will be equal to what? Here the degree will be equal to 4. Here the degree will be equal to what, friends? Here the degree will be equal to 4. So, this is how you can find the degree of the polynomial. Is it clear? So, this is how you can find the degree of the polynomial, friends. Clear? Okay. So, this is how you can find the degree of the polynomial. So, Till now we learned what? We learned what is a constant, and also we learned what is a variable. Then we combined them to form algebraic expression. Then we found out what is a polynomial, and we also found out the general form of a polynomial. We also found out what is the value of a polynomial, and we also learned what is the zero of a polynomial. Zero of a polynomial is nothing but what? Where we get value of a polynomial is equal to 0. At which point we get? That point is nothing but 0 of a polynomial. Next thing, you have to understand that we also learnt what? Various types of polynomial. If it is one term, it is called monomial. If it is two terms, we call it as binomial. If it is three terms, we call it as trinomial. Like similarly, we also learned degree of a polynomial. That is nothing but what? That is nothing but highest power of variable. Highest power of variable is called degree of a polynomial. Next, let us see classification of polynomials. That is types of polynomials based on degree. Types of polynomial based on degree. Types of polynomial, this is based on degree. First one is, if I write it as p of x is equal to 2x plus 3. This is nothing but what? This is nothing but linear polynomial. This is nothing but what? Linear polynomial. Okay. Here the degree will be equal to what? The coefficient, that is the highest power of variable is what? It is nothing but 1. So here degree will be equal to 1. So degree, when the degree of the polynomial is equal to 1, we call it as what? We call it as linear polynomial. You should be careful. Okay. This is nothing but what? Linear polynomial. Okay. While solving the question, first of all you have to check whether it is linear, quadratic or something like that. Okay. Here the degree of the polynomial is equal to 1. So that is why it is called as what? Linear polynomial. Linear means straight line type. Okay. If you plot this on the graph, you will get a straight line. Okay. You will get a straight line. Let us move to the next thing. If I write p of x is equal to, if I write it as 2x square plus x plus 3. Okay. This is nothing but what, friends? This is nothing but quadratic polynomial. This is nothing but what? Quadratic polynomial. This is quadratic polynomial. Here the degree is what? Here the degree will be equal to 2. Okay. Any polynomial whose degree is equal to 2. Degree is equal to 2 means what? Value of the, that is highest power of the variable. Highest power of the variable is 2, then it is nothing but quadratic polynomial. Similarly, if I write p of x is equal to, it need not be in polynomial in x, polynomial in anything, y, t, z, x, q, anything, something like that. So this will be, if I write it as 3x cube plus 2x square plus 2, something like this if I write it. So here the degree is what? Here the degree is 3. If it is 3, it is called as what, friend? It is called as cubic polynomial. It is called as what? Cubic polynomial. It is called as cubic polynomial. Okay. Now let us see the next one. Fourth one, p of x is equal to x to the power of 4 plus 2x cube plus 2. Okay. Something like this. Here the, what is the highest power of the variable? Highest power of the variable is what? 4. So the degree is 4. So this is called as what, friend? This is called as biquadratic polynomial. Okay. Quadratic means it is 2. 4 means biquadratic polynomial. Okay. Biquadratic polynomial. Okay. Till here you have to learn. So till biquadratic you have to learn. Next, a polynomial can be just written like this. See here, p of x is equal to, I can write it as 5, 3, 2, etc. something like this. Here the degree is what? Here when we don't have the variable itself, okay, when we don't have the variable itself, the degree will be nothing but equal to 0. So 5 I can write it as 5x to the power of 0. Okay, 3 I can write it as 3x to the power of 0. Here the degree will be equal to 0. So when the degree will be equal to 0, this is nothing but, we call it as what? This is nothing but we call it as constant polynomial. We call it as what? Constant polynomial. So in many questions they will give as, consider a constant polynomial. That time you should know what is a constant polynomial. Okay, these definitions will be very useful when you see case study question. When they give case study questions, you have to know, when they say a constant polynomial, you should know. What is a zero polynomial, you should know. So this is a constant polynomial. Next thing, let us see what is a zero polynomial. Okay, till now what we learned? Linear polynomial. These are all based on what? These types of polynomial are based on degree of the polynomial. Degree means what? That is value. That is value of the highest power of the variable. Value of the highest power of the variable, that is nothing but degree. We learned linear polynomial where degree is 1, quadratic degree is 2, and cubic polynomial degree is what? Degree is 3. and biquadratic polynomial degree is 4, and constant polynomial where degree is 0. Now, let us learn 0 polynomial. Okay. P of x is given as 0. Okay. Here this 0 can be written as what? This 0 can be written as, see, this 0 can be written as, see, this 0 can be written as 0 into x square, 0 into x cube, 0 into x to the power of 100. Okay, whatever it is, 0 into something will give us 0 itself, will give us 0 itself. Okay, for such a polynomial, degree is not defined. For such a polynomial, degree is not defined. Okay, what is a polynomial where degree is not defined? If they ask, it is not constant polynomial. The answer is 0 polynomial. It is what? 0 polynomial. You have to be very careful. Don't get confused between constant polynomial and 0 polynomial. Okay, this is what? 0 polynomial. Okay, they can ask in multiple choice question in CBSE. Okay, you have to be careful. 0 polynomial means what? Where degree is not defined. Where degree is 0, that is constant polynomial. Where degree is not defined, that is 0 polynomial. Okay, that much is enough for today. So, we learnt what is a constant variable, and we combined that when we got algebraic expression, and then we learnt what is a polynomial, and then also we learnt what is a general form of a polynomial, that is a0 plus a1 x1, a2 xn, a2 x2 up to an xn. Okay, then also we learnt what is value of a polynomial. When you put when we substitute the value of x, whatever the value we get by computing the polynomial, we get it as value of the polynomial. Then also we learned what is 0 of a polynomial. Okay, suppose you put the value of x, then if you get the value of the polynomial as 0, then that value of x is called as what? 0 of the polynomial. Then we learned the types of polynomial, that is, if it is one term we call it as monomial, if it is two terms we call it as binomial, if it is three terms we call it as trinomial. Like that, if it is n number of terms we call it as polynomial. And similarly, we learn degree of the polynomial. Degree means what, friends? Degree means value of the highest power of the variable. Value of the highest power of the variable, that is nothing but degree of the polynomial. Based on degree, we will also learn types of polynomial, that is linear polynomial where degree is 1, then quadratic polynomial where degree is 2, cubic polynomial where degree is 3, and biquadratic polynomial where degree is 4, and constant polynomial where degree is 0, and finally we learned 0 polynomial where degree cannot be defined at all. Okay, so that's all for today. Let's stay tuned for NEET World. You will please watch the next session where we will be continuing with polynomial, and mainly we will be solving the question in the next session, because we have covered most of the basics when it comes to polynomial. Thank you, friends. Let's wind up now. Let's meet in the next session.